From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBacks, the Primetime Capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. And I hope you're feeling the same. This is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTimeAngles. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We got ourselves a jam-packed show today. And up first is the Canelo Charlo pressers kicking off in NYC and LA, the kickoff pressers. What to expect from the super fight? Well, you guys already know that this is a fight that I've probably been waiting on for the last 10 years or so, since these guys were fighting on HBO and all that good stuff. So pretty much it's funny that at one point in time, they all fought at 154, but Canelo moved on and Mall Charlo moved on, but Mel Charlo went ahead and cleaned out the division and became the undisputed champ. Canelo has became the undisputed champ of the super middleweights, and this is something that's very key. You know what I mean? And everybody's looking at 14-pound weight difference, blah 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 blah. But if you know anything about Jamel Charlo, is that he walks around at about 180, 190. In reality, he's a fairly big man, you know what I mean, for a boxer. And he's already a little bit taller than Canelo as well, too. And so pretty much with him being already a big dude, he does a lot to get down to 154 and still carry that power into 154, not be drained, all that good stuff. That reflects a guy that has a great diet. So him and Canelo are both kind of the same type of person. They're both walking around at weights that are not their fighting weights. They're walking around much heavier. That's why they're always able to pack a punch. And you know what? They do have a history. It goes all the way back to the Golden Boy days when the Charlo twins were more of an anomaly, and people kind of overlooked these two little angry guys from Houston. And, you know, Canelo was the golden child. So they tried to keep the Charlo brothers as far away from the golden child as they could, even though they'd be barking, chomping at the bit to fight him. You know, it was always something that you knew that was kind of just a dream for them, because Canelo has to say yes. That's the whole thing. And then, you know, throw Andretti in the middle of that as well, too. So, you know, you've had guys who've been chasing Canelo for the last 10 years. And Canelo has always taken on the fights that were set up for him by his promoters. Now he's the boss. He's the head honcho. Now he can fight exactly who he wants to fight. So now we can kind of tell what the issue was with Canelo moving forward, is that the promoters that he had in place with him, Golden Boy, Matchroom, all those guys that he was doing business with, they didn't want to present him with guys like Charlo. They always want to make things to where it's a highlight reel situation for Canelo. Everything's well thought out. And you can tell that Canelo was starting to really take on challenges because he's the one picking his opponents. And the greatest example of that is the Bivol fight. In reality, no promoter would have put him in the ring with Bivol. But Canelo felt so confident that he was going to be able to do something with Bivol that he took that fight and felt like he was going to be the man. And honestly, a lot of you said Bivol stood no chance and Bivol was going to get knocked out just like Kovalev did. And I told you guys from day one that was a bad matchup for Canelo and that Canelo will probably get housed in this fight, and that's exactly what happened. Because you know what? You can't be scared to say certain things, even if these guys are seen as the super boxer or the best pound for pound in the world. They're human at the end of the day, and they all got flaws. Sometimes they're very noticeable, sometimes they're not. And Canelo is at the twilight of his career. Let's keep it real. His fight that pretty much said that he's at the twilight of his career was a Triple G fight. Triple G was there for the taking. He should have knocked Triple G out to solidify that the trilogy was over, that he was the superior man. He didn't do that. So what does he do? He winds up losing to Bivol, right? Or whatever the case was with Canelo. But he winds up not following through the way that you wanted him to follow through. You know what I mean? He loses to Bivol, he beats Triple G. Then he comes back for an easy tune-up in Mexico against John Ryder that winds up turning into a situation that got a little bit more tough than it was supposed to be. Canelo breezed through the fight, but Canelo's face was kind of worn that night as well, too. So the thing is Canelo still passionate about boxing? Once you start making the money, once everything becomes very easy in life when it comes to the boxing world, does it really interest you? That's the biggest question. And the best thing about this for Canelo is he's fighting a guy that's been off for 16 months. And Charlo, we do really hold Charlo in high regard. But when you're off for almost 18 months, that's a big, big red flag in a sense as well, too. So there's a lot of things that you question going into this fight. So both these guys got some obstacles that have been presented. And I truly do feel like we're going to get the fight of the year with this, because this is a redemption fight for both of these guys. Even though they're both undisputed coming into the fight, this to me is for who will be the best in the world pound for pound. I don't care what the writers say, what the people say. I've been around the sport closely for the last 5 years, and this fight right here is the fight. It has to be, because I know everybody was very high on Spence and Crawford, but I've been always higher on this fight because I always feel like this fight is a true life and death fight, and it's going to go to places that none of us imagine it will go to. So I can't wait. I look forward to the next press conference tomorrow in Los Angeles. It looks like I won't be able to make it because I didn't get my I didn't see that the credentials had to be turned in on Sunday. So I missed on that. So I'm gonna try to make some phone calls and pop up over at the Beverly Wilshire, but we'll see. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward and talk some football, because we got a bunch of football news to go over. And up first, Zeke signs with the Pats. What will his impact be on this historic franchise? What will it be? Zeke is in another long line of great players that have signed with the Patriots. You know, he the Randy Mosses of the world, the Darrell Reeveses of the world. You know what I mean? Bringing back Deion Branch. You know, years later. Rodney Harrison. You know, all the there's a lot of great names that wind up going to the Patriots because a guy like Belichick does believe in what you can bring to the table, and he sees Zeke Elliott as a great complement to the running back that he already has there, and Ramondre Stevenson. So he sees himself. He sees a good duo here. The idea is for the Patriots to go back to be a run-first team and then let that set up their passing game and be a time possession team as well, too. They're going to rely heavy on the defense. So bringing in Zeke is a perfect complement to what your playbook is actually going to be at the end of the day. And Zeke is going to be on a revenge tour, and he's going to be with a team that emphasizes great blocking, especially great run blocking as well, too. And he's going to have a play caller that's not going to put him in scenarios that don't fit his skill set. I felt like after a while, they were just trying to just throw things at the wall and hope it stuck for Zeke, you know, and it was always a competition between him and Tony Pollard. And it was just, no, Tony Pollard is living off the fact that Zeke gets so much attention. You guys just don't get that part. That's why the Cowboys did not go out their way to pay him during the summer, because they know he's replaceable. You can find a 4.2, 4.3 scat back anywhere, literally. But to find a guy like Zeke A guy who used to run a 4.4 who's running around at 230, 240, and he's a guy who can run people over as well too. When you got Zeke on his A game, Zeke is one of the best players in the NFL. Not just one of the best running backs, but one of the best players in the NFL. If they can tap into just a little bit of that, the Patriots can be a problem. Because this right here tells me that the Patriots are still serious about winning football games. This isn't a rebuild. This isn't a reevaluation. This isn't a start over. This is a guy that they're bringing in right now to surprise the division. It's that simple. And I know it seems like I'm jumping the gun a little bit for a guy like Zeke, but I understand how this move works. If Zeke is very effective early, it's going to work for everybody. But if Zeke is somewhere, struggling and it's not working out, he'll be done by October with this team. Let's just keep it real. He's not on a deal where they guaranteeing anything. Only thing that they guarantee him is that he can work for a roster spot on this team. And we know that he's going to come with the baggage that superstars come with. But when you get to New England, literally all that mumbo jumbo and all that bad reporting has left the building. They don't let bad reporters in that building. That's the whole thing. And you only have to talk to the media forever how long you're supposed to talk to the media. They can't chase you around the facility like when you're in Dallas. So Zeke is going to be able to breathe easy, go home, hang out, chill, and not worry about anything but football. In Dallas, it was always, are we going to go party tonight? Are we going to go hang out tonight? Are we going to go do this? What female is in love with Zeke? Don't worry. I got all the stories. I know a lot that's going on in every sport. But the thing is, though, that's not my job to report on it on this show. But Zeke is out of a situation that was killing his career at the end of the day. And absolutely, this was the right move for both parties. And I feel like Zeke can go back, be low key. He already cut his hair off. Zeke's ready to go back to being a great football player, not just being a great personality for a popular team. You know what I mean? So there's that, and Zeke is headed to New England. So time to get a little excited. Kind of reminds me when Corey Dillon went to the Patriots. You know what I mean? But you don't have the same type of team. You don't have Tom Brady there, but you can make the same type of impact. Corey Dillon wound up being the best player on their team when he got there. So let's go ahead and move forward and talk about Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook has picked the Jets as his next team after signing a heavy one-year deal. Now, his deal is a little more guaranteed. He's getting $8.6 million to play with the Jets this year. And, he went through the free agent process very smartly. He could have chose a team immediately. He could have went straight to Miami, went back home and played in Florida and, played with the team that kind of fit his playing style somewhat. But he went to the Jets because he has a familiarity with Aaron Rodgers. He also has a familiarity with Hackett as well, too, who used to be the offensive coordinator for the Packers a few years ago before heading to Denver and failing as a head coach. Now, you got this guy here, and he's looking to take his career to the next level and possibly be a part of a championship winning team. Now, bringing in Dalvin Cook makes the Jets a way more legitimate contender moving forward. But how much does Dalvin Cook truly have left? Because Dalvin Cook seemed like he was a prime running back, and why would your team just go ahead and cut you? Why would they just get rid of you out the blue? Why would they be so adamant about trading you? And then you find out he has a little bit of a domestic situation going on, but that won't affect him moving forward during the season or anything like that. Maybe he just wore out his welcome in Minnesota and they just don't want to embarrass the guy. But those are the things that you look at to say to yourself, will this be a good fit for the Jets moving forward? And I think at the end of the day, it possibly is going to be the right fit for all parties included. But that doesn't mean the Jets make the playoffs this year. The Jets have so many other things that they have to do right to ensure that they make these playoffs. And the first thing is to make sure that Aaron Rodgers is standing up upright. We all know that Jets quarterbacks have been a little under the injury bug for the last few years. It's like inevitable for them to get hurt in games. And, literally we've seen that over the last decade or so, that the Jets have not had a quarterback fully play a 16-game season, 17-game season and in years. You know what I mean? So, that's something that they're going to have to get right this year. They're going to have to keep Rodgers upright. They're going to have to keep him playing as much as possible, because Zach Wilson steps in. Zach Wilson can be a bigger improvement, but there's a reason why you have Aaron Rodgers here. If you really want to trust Zach Wilson, you would have brought in somebody like Matt Ryan to be a good mentor, but not the starter. And what you're doing is you're having a leader by example situation, somewhat what Brett Favre did with Aaron Rodgers. So with Dalvin, I feel like they're going to do the same thing for Breece Hall. You're going to have this guy set a great example for you and lighten up the load on Breece Hall as well, too. I know at the end of the day, Breece Hall is probably going to be the better of the two running backs, but Dalvin Cook's going to be the guy that's going to be able to get them home on the big moments and the big plays. Even though Breece Hall can do the same thing, Dalvin Cook is an explosive runner, and he's a guy that can just take one step and he's gone. And this is going to be something that's going to be a dangerous element for this Jets team that has not had a high-powered offense in a very, very long time. This was a great add-on to a group that you had questions about, but now you've had some questions answered about this group as well, too. So the Jets are looking just as strong as everybody else in the AFC East right now. And I'm going to keep it real. The more and more I look at this division, the more and more it's getting tougher to truly pick who's going to win this division at the end of the day. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward to our next topic in hand, our topic before we go to our first commercial break. And Raiders impress in preseason opener. Can any of it translate to the season? That's the question. And you can see the Raiders working hard. They had a guy tackling and people with no helmet on. Man, that was pretty crazy right there. You know what I mean? And the Raiders put on a great effort, man. They absolutely cooked the 49ers. And I really did not see that coming at all. I thought that this game was going to be a little bit more closer. I thought that possibly San Francisco would possibly, give them some big fits and things like that. But none of that came to fruition. The Raiders took care of their business, but San Francisco did roll out a lot of players that they're probably going to be cutting next Friday. You know what I mean? The Raiders rolled out a lot of players that possibly can make the roster because they're evaluating a lot of different positions in a lot of different spots. You know what I mean? The Raiders don't have people locked in on that team, on that depth chart yet. They're still working it out because the Raiders are not set to be a great team this year. They're set to be a team that shows up with the roster. But they could be a little bit better than that this year because you do have a little bit of faith right now that if something happens to Jimmy G, they have the backup quarterback in place in rookie Aiden O'Connell, but you still can't depend on a rookie. So they have Brian Hoyer there as well, too, who probably would get the first look at that situation if or when Jimmy G gets hurt. And pretty much they have to sign back Josh Jacobs to even think that they have a chance this season at being a playoff team or being a team competing for the playoffs. Also, Devontae Adams with his strained knee, that's something that you're going to have to keep looking at very closely and hope that that doesn't linger on into the season. Because if it does, then we're going to have a big issue with Devontae, being effective for your team this year. And Devontae is the playmaker. He is the guy that makes everything go for this team. He sets up the running game for you from being an absolute threat on every single play. So there's a lot of things that the Raiders do have to work out internally to make sure that they can get to the level that they want to be at. But with their coach being such an egotist, it's going to be very hard to do. And you just hope that the Raiders stick together, they win for themselves, and they don't worry about the BS that their coach is going to put them through. Because at the end of the day, they're dealing with a dictator. They're not dealing with the guy that's motivating them to do anything. And pretty much, yes, they did well in the preseason game that the other team did not take as seriously as they should have. And the 49ers already had a really bad practices throughout the week against another team because they have to get acclimated to what they have. They have a high turnover on that team as well, too. They have a lot of new guys on the roster, and they have a quarterback controversy, even if they don't want to admit it, because at the end of the day, they have 3 quarterbacks in place, but which one is capable of being the starter every single week? They want to go with the guy that was supposed to be just the backup, just the guy that was a fill-in. They want to make him the starting quarterback now over 2 guys who were drafted in the top 3. That's a problem right there. There's a lot of confusion going on with San Francisco. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later on this week. But with the Raiders right now, the Raiders have it to right where they want to be to show that they're capable of being the team that Al Davis envisioned them to be. You know what I mean? Win, baby, win, commitment to excellence. But right now, the Raiders are a day-by-day, step-by-step situation. And it's just really hard to really think that any of this is going to translate to the season because I just know how the Raiders are. And I know that last year they played a hell of a preseason. And then the first game of the year, they made so many mistakes, your head would have spent off with how many mistakes they were making in that game. So with that, that's pretty much going to be a wrap on today's first segment. And pretty much we'll have more to talk about as the week goes along about all these teams in training camp and all that good stuff. And make sure you guys catch us on Friday. And when we do preview the AFC and NFC North as well, too, me and Jeff on the NFL Bet Exchange. So with that, you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, and I'll be right back at you.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, we're back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. And let's go ahead and jump into our next topics in hand. And man, I'm telling you now, we got ourselves some really good baseball games going on today and everything like that. I think that, all in all, you got yourself some really good movement right now with the Dodgers, who are just absolutely crushing it. Won 8 in a row, as I said yesterday. Also 12-1 for the month. And, just everything's working. Everything's in a perfect storm for the Dodgers right now. And so pretty much Blue Crew Daily, Dodgers kicking off their 3-game series versus the Brewers in a battle of division leaders. So, they pretty much have had their way with the Brewers this year. They dominated when they went to Milwaukee this year. But the Brewers are starting to separate themselves a bit from the Reds, who were actually leading the division by 2.5 games at one point. Now they're struggling and they're losing the division by 3.5 games now. But the Brewers have probably been the most steady team in the Central, as I told everybody all year long, and pretty much have find themselves 3.5 games ahead. They've won their last 7 out of 10 games as well, too. So they're coming in here a much better team than the odds say that they are. Because when you look at the matchup today, they have the Dodgers as a heavy favorite in this spot because They just know that the Dodgers are heated up. They've won 8 in a row. And, they have Milwaukee's number, and Milwaukee has one of their weaker pitchers on the mound with Adrian Hauser. But Hauser has a 4.38 ERA going into this season, and he's also 4-3. So he's been able to hold things down. He's made 16 appearances this year. And it looks like that with Hauser, sometimes he can be a spot starter. Sometimes he can come into the middle of the game, things like that. He had a really good game a few weeks back against Atlanta where he struck out 10 and gave up 3 runs over on 6 hits. And then in his last start, he was decent, but he gave up 4 runs, 5 hits, and he struck out 5 in that game. And it wound up being a no decision for him, but it did bump up his ERA a little bit in that last spot. So sometimes you look at that and you say to yourself, it may translate into tonight to where he still struggles, or he'll be able to, right those wrongs and really frustrate the Dodgers. And if the Dodgers play down to the level, then he can all opportunity. I'm looking at the Dodgers starter tonight is Bobby Miller, the young prospect who's making his 13th start of the season. Bobby Miller did well in his last game. He gave 4 hits, but he gave up no runs and struck out 4. And he's been really good his last 5 games after one point having a little bit of a rookie awakening somewhat. You know what I mean? He gave up 7 runs and then 6 runs, but this was against the Giants and the Astros. Since then, he's been a much better pitcher, even though I do think that he does need to keep his hits down a little bit here, but he's done well enough to the point to where he's not giving up more than 3 runs in his last 5 starts. And against Arizona last week, he actually gave up no runs, and he's moving forward pretty well. And we all know Mookie's probably the hottest hitter in baseball right now. And he is a very, very strong candidate to win the MVP this year as well, too, because the way that the Dodgers have taken off with Mookie Betts leading the way, it's been something that's been very eye-opening. So I know he'll be right there with Acuna with head going blow for blow to win that MVP this year. But tonight, the Dodgers are in a situation where they're going to be overplayed. Everybody's going to trust the Dodgers tonight. Everybody's going to feel like the Dodgers can go in there and absolutely crush the Brewers. I cannot give you guys the advice to take the Dodgers tonight because Bobby Miller is a really good pitcher, but he's still a rookie, and the Brewers are over here trying to hold off not 1 but 2 teams, and they don't have the luxury that the Dodgers have of being well ahead of their competition. So the Brewers are going to be treating this game like a playoff game tonight, and the Dodgers better be ready for that. So I do like the Brewers a little bit more tonight with the run line. I'm not going to give the Brewers the game to win, but if there's any game that the Brewers can win in this series for this week, it will probably be this one because this is the kickoff game for tonight's series. And usually these games don't go exactly the way that fans want them to go if they're over excited about the situation. And right now, I know LA fans are over excited about the Dodgers because they're on a winning streak and they feel like they'll be able to beat anybody. But see games like this are very good wake-up calls. And I feel like tonight is going to be a wake-up call game. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward to our next topic in hand, and that's going to be the MLB Tuesday night. We got ourselves some really fun games. We got a full schedule tonight as well, too. We got a lot of interleague matchups as well. We got some divisional matchups, but a lot of interleague matchups for this week because I know that we're going to start scaling back on that a little bit as we get closer and closer to the end of the regular season. So we have that. We have some good games tonight. You have the Guardians and Reds, Battle of Ohio tonight. You also have the Red Sox and Nationals. That's a battle of D.C. and Boston tonight. That's always fun. You also have a really good Pirates-Mets matchup. Even though both these teams are pretty much out of the playoffs, they still have a little bit of hope. So these teams, this is a very important series. It's almost like an eliminator in a sense. You got Yankees, Braves tonight as well too. That should be a very good matchup. But the Yankees are starting to kind of fall a little bit too far off. And 60 and 59, no good right now. Then you have the Angels, Rangers. The Angels trying to figure out a way to keep themselves in the race, but that's going to be difficult. And then you also have the Windy City series with the White Sox and the Cubs tonight. That should be a fun game as well too. And then the late nightcap games are very important for standings because you have the Orioles and the Padres tonight, very important game, and the Rays and the Giants, very important game as well too, because you have one team that's chasing the wild card. You have two teams that are chasing the AL East. So there's a lot of good things that are going on tonight, and these are some really damn good games for this early portion of the schedule this week. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the first matchup that I have for you guys, and that's going to be the Phillies and the Blue Jays. This was a classic World Series back in 1993. I totally remember it. Mitch Wild Thing Williams up there throwing to Joe Carter, and Joe Carter hitting that 3-run home run that won the game. I remember Joe Carter jumping so high and my father jumping so high because he had just won the squares. He had just won the squares at this spot that was that it was a little Italian restaurant, but he was so excited about Cat getting that square because it hit the number perfectly for the square. So that's always the biggest memory of that moment that I had, that my dad jumping up and down just as high as Joe Carter did that day. But that's probably the most exciting finish in World Series history. I don't care what anybody says. And, Canada, for those 2 years that they won the World Series, it might have been the most exciting time in baseball because you had a whole nother country embraced for the American pastime, and it showed that we can do this in two countries if we need to, and that's probably the greatest championship in all of baseball history because they did it in an area that they never expected them to do it in, and they did it with a team that literally has, I think, 90% Hall of Famers, and if they're not in the Hall of Fame, they need to be in the Hall of Fame because that was one of the greatest lineups and greatest pitching rotations I've ever seen in my life. All right, so back from memory lane, the Phillies playing some of the best baseball period out of anybody, and they are moving forward. And now they've turned themselves into the number one team in the wild card as well too. So they have the number one spot in the wild card. They're pretty much official on where they're going to stand at as well too. So that's huge for that team. But all in all, though, the Blue Jays seem like they're ready to pounce and be the spoiler for the Rays and the Orioles, but then they wind up taking 2 steps back. So, this team is just trying to stay consistent enough to make the playoffs because at this point right now, they're sitting at the final wild card spot with some teams chomping at their bit, and they're actually teams that are in their division. So this is what makes this series very important for the Blue Jays. It seems like the Phillies have a handle on their situation, even though they have to hold off Miami, who's not that far behind them, but Miami's struggling right now. They've hit the peripheral wall. They had their 2 months where they were a really good baseball team, but now they've regressed back into being exactly who they were supposed to be this season. This team some teams just kind of were very early to their party. That's all it is. Just like I said about the Pirates, and just like I've been saying about the Diamondbacks, and I said that about the Orioles too. So pretty much right now we are in the set of things, and I truly do feel that this game tonight presents probably the best matchup because you got 2 really good pitchers on the mound, and then you got 2 of the better lineups in all of baseball going at it as well too. So this should be a lot of fun. And when I really break this one down and look at it, I see that this game should be a Phillies win. I like the Phillies money line tonight in this spot. I think Willer's going to have enough in the tank to go ahead and get his team the victory. So let's move forward and jump into our next spot, and that's going to be a divisional game between the Tigers and the Twins. And last week, the Tigers beat the Twins 3 out of 4. So if the Tigers were really chasing the Central hard right now, it would be an absolute gem for this team in reality, because The thing is, it would be an absolute gem in reality because the thing is with this team, they are very, 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 they're very, and it's funny because I'm reviewing this game, but really, it's supposed to be the Angels and the Rangers, but Tigers Twins. This is an intriguing matchup because I truly do feel that these teams will be, on their A game in this spot tonight, and I think that take you can't look at this and think the Twins are going to be your team in this spot because the Twins are struggling against their division. Well, they're struggling against the White Sox and the Tigers, okay? And it's hard to trust them in this spot against that team. So tonight, with that, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and actually do this with that game. I'm going to go ahead and make that one more of a game that is for the Tigers, but the Tigers don't have to win. They just have to keep the game close. So I'm taking the plus 1.5 in that spot. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the actual game that I was supposed to talk about, and that's going to be the Angels and the Rangers. So the Angels and Rangers, 59-61 for the Angels coming in. You got the Rangers 71-48, one of the best teams in baseball right now. So you have a very fun matchup going on today. So with that, you can go ahead and look at this game and say to yourself, the Angels need to win. That's just really what the end all be all of this situation is. The Angels got to win this game. So they are in a spot that makes them very, very vulnerable, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And I just truly feel that they really got to step their game up. They got to be good tonight. And they're running out of time. It's that simple. And I truly do feel that you guys can go ahead and put them as your dog of the day today. They're coming in at plus 155. So that should be a good bet for anybody that's looking for some good dog. You know what I mean? So all right, so sorry about that. Just calls coming in and all types of stuff. But all in all, though, man, I just truly feel that this is a make or break game for the Angels. But I've been saying that for the last few weeks. So, it's up to them to want to win the game, at the end of the day. Nobody's forcing them to try to be a good team, So it is what it is, man. So with that, let's move on to what I feel is the true dog of the day, and that's going to be this one right here. I feel like, we have the Diamondbacks exactly where we want them. The Diamondbacks are 59-60. This is the first time all year since probably being 0-1 that they've had 1-2. This is the first time since a while they've had a losing record. They had a 1-2 to start the year. And since that point, they've been one of the better teams. They were one of the better teams in baseball until about 6 weeks ago. And now the reality of a 162 game season is starting to set in. Their rookies and young players are getting tired. Their veterans are dealing with nagging injuries, and they just don't have enough to be an elite team. They had enough to be a good team for a short amount of time, and that's exactly what happened. A lot of teams can hold some good winning streaks for a few months, but once they get back to being exactly who they were predicted to be, the fall off becomes very drastic, and that's exactly what happened to the Diamondbacks. So this winds up becoming a toss-up game tonight in reality. So I truly do like the Rockies going into this game tonight, and they're actually going to be on our late ticket tonight. So I like the Rockies tonight with the plus 140 as our dog of the day. So we got kind of two dogs of the day, but this is the dog of the day that I have listed for you, and that's going to be on the Bet Us dog of the day as well, too. And it's a home dog. You know, we all love the home dog, so let's get the home dog home. So with that, we're going to rock with the Rockies tonight, and hopefully they can get this one home for us. The 46-73 Rockies. Rockies are struggling, man, mightily. So it is what it is at the end of the day. So let's go ahead and take one more commercial break, and when I get back, we're going to talk those tickets. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we're back with your favorite part of the show, my favorite part of the show. You guys know you like it because it's the end of the show. But it's all good. I got those tickets for you, and we got two groups for you tonight. So let's go ahead and jump into the Primetime Pick 6. Primetime Pick 6 is going to be 48-1 tonight. We have the under 9.5 with the Guardians and the Reds. We have the 1.5 to the Astros plus 135 tonight. We also have the Phillies money line minus 115. We're going to rock with the Tigers plus 1.5 minus 130. Then we also have the over 9.5 with the A's and the Cardinals in the lowly matchup tonight. And then we try to ride that Mariners wave tonight. That might be a smoke and mirrors type line, because, you know, this game's a lot closer than what it needs to be. Last night kind of proved that. So I like the Mariners with the minus 140 tonight, but, you know, move cautiously on that one. Don't overbet that play. Just hope that it gets home and go from there. All right, so we move forward. Let's talk about the 15-1 late pick 4. We got the Rockies money line as our dog of the day, plus 140. Also, we have the under 8.5 with the Orioles and the Padres tonight. Then we have the over 8.5 with the Rays and the Giants. And then we finish up with the Brewers plus 1.5 minus 115 to see if they can go ahead and just keep that game close. So with that, that's going to be a wrap on today's show. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys are looking for horse plays and things like that, follow my Twitter right now at Pop DiBiase, and I got the plays churning out each race, each 30 minutes for the card up at Presque Isle Downs in Erie, PA. And if you guys follow my Erie, PA cards, you guys already know that they some hitters, baby. So, you know, don't miss the money. But all in all, I'll be back tomorrow for Wednesday. We'll be having a lot to talk about then as well, too. So you guys make sure to tune in. And if you're watching this show right now on any of the platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, make sure you're retweeting, sharing, sending this to friends, all that stuff. Let's keep the movement moving, okay? You guys, as I always say, there is no me without you. I'm very, very appreciative of you tuning in. Always a pleasure. And pretty much we'll be back tomorrow. And as I always say, bet with your head, not with your heart. And one last time, the movement is moving. And this is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles. And I'm your host, the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, and I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.